Shalom, it's Tehila from the Kifar. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. This is the place to be to learn Hebrew online, and you can visit thekifar.com/Hebrew to learn more. This is Hebrew verbs lesson number 48. And I know that in the last lesson, number 47, I said that we were wrapping up our Nifal present tense conjugation patterns, but that was a mistake. We actually have one more that we're going to cover today as soon as we go over the exercises from the last video. So in our last lesson, which again was lesson number 47, we learned the pattern for third vav nifal verbs, those verbs where the third syllable of the infinitive, the part that comes after the le, he, starts with a vav. It'll be one vav if it's written with nikud and two vavs if it's written without. And all of the present tense conjugations are going to start with no as opposed to ni or ne. So the first exercise verb was lehivasef, which is to be added. And here we have the vav in our third syllable, le-hi-va-sef. To find the shoresh, we get rid of those first three letters, the lamed, the hey, and the yod. And then we're also going to change the vav into a yod. And there we get our root. But remember that the yod doesn't actually appear in the conjugations. So for masculine singular, we have nosaf, feminine singular, nosefet, masculine plural, nosafim, and feminine plural, nosafot. So nosaf, nosefet, nosafim, nosafot. The next verb was lehivater, which is to remain or to be left. Get rid of the first three letters, change the vav into a yod, and here we have our shoresh. And we see again that the third syllable starts with vav. So our masculine singular is notar, feminine singular, noteret, masculine plural, notarim, and feminine plural, notarot. Notar, noteret, notarim, and notarot. And so here are the 6 groups that we have done so far, side by side. I'll just read through them and note the sound patterns for each and how they vary from our regular standard pattern. So that's nichnas, nichneset, nichnasim, and nichnasot. For chet, ayin, nifal verbs, these are verbs where the last letter of the shoresh is chet or ayin, and the pattern is nishlach, nishlachat, nishlachim, and nishlachot. Notice that it's exactly the same as the regular for the masculine singular and for our plurals. Where it differs is with the feminine singular, instead of I, e, et, we have I, a, at as the sound pattern. For initial aha nifal verbs, these are verbs where the first letter of the shoresh is alef, hey, or ayin, where we get the aha from. And our sound pattern is ne'elav, ne'elevet, ne'elavim, and ne'elavot. Initial chet, these are nifal verbs where the first letter of the shoresh is chet, and it sounds like nechshav, nechshevet, nechshavim, and nechshavot. So very similar to the initial aha pattern, but instead of an initial ne'e, like we have for all of the initial aha, it's just ne with the shava underneath the second letter. So ne'elav versus just nechshav, ne'elevet versus nechshevet, etc. We have vav tav, and these are nifal verbs where the infinitive ends in a vav and a tav. And so to find the shoresh, we change that vav tav into a hey, and it sounds like nir'eh, nir'et, nir'im, and nir'ot. And remember that usually in the other binyanim that we've covered, vav tav verbs will usually end in e for the masculine and then a for the feminine, but that's not the case when it comes to nifal vav tav verbs. Okay, so nir'eh, we have that e for the masculine, but for the feminine, it's not a, it's nir'et. And the last group that we covered was the third vav, and these are nifal verbs where the third syllable starts with a vav, and when we find the shoresh, we change that vav into a yod, and the pattern is nolad, noledet, noladim, and noladot. Okay, so before we get into today's pattern, just remember that you can get my guide to Hebrew verb conjugations. The direct link is in the video description, and it covers the past, present, and future tenses of all the binyanim with an overview of each binyan, tables and charts, and additional information. And you can visit thekifar.com/shop, or again, the direct link is in the description of the video. So the nifal pattern that we are going to learn today is for verbs that end in alef. So the last letter of the root is alef. And this is a pattern that's going to be familiar to you from other binyanim because we've seen pa'al and pl verbs that end in alef, and the pattern is very similar. And the verb that we are going to use is lehimatse, and here it is with nikud. And lehimatse is to be found, to be located, or to be in or at a particular place. And finding the shoresh is super easy. You just get rid of those first 3 letters, as always, and you're left with matzah. And as you can see, it ends with alef. And there is a pa'al verb with this root. That verb is limtso, and limtso is to find or to locate. And so this verb lehimatse is related. It has the same shoresh, the same root, and it's the passive. So to be found as opposed to find. And so our pattern for these verbs where the shoresh ends in alef, is almost the same as our regular nifal verb pattern, okay? It's exactly the same for the masculine singular and for the plurals. The sound pattern is ni'a, and then ni'a'im, and ni'a'ot. Where we see the difference is with the feminine singular, and that pattern is ni'et. Okay, so the feminine singular here is very similar to the feminine singular of the vav tav pattern as well. So if we plug in our root letters, the mem, tzadi, and the alef, we have nimtza for masculine singular, nimtzet for feminine singular, nimtzaim for masculine plural, and nimtzaot for feminine plural. So nimtza, nimtzet, nimtzaim, and nimtzaot. So hu nimtza, he or it is located. He nimtzet, she or it feminine is found. Anachnu nimtzaim, we are located. Hen nimtzaot, they feminine are found. And you can use this verb to talk about where things are, even if you wouldn't necessarily use the word located or found in English. So for example, if I wanted to say, I'm in North Carolina, I could say, ani bitzfon Carolina, or I could say, ani nimtzet bitzfon Carolina. Okay, this is where I am, where I'm located, where I'm found. So you can use it even if you wouldn't necessarily say located or found in English. Okay, so as always, now for your practice exercises. The first verb that you're going to conjugate with this pattern is lehikare, which is to be called, to be named, or to be read. And the second verb is lehibare, which is to be created. And as you can see, both lehikare and lehibare end in alef. So you're going to follow the pattern that you learned in this lesson. And that is all for today. Toda latzfia. Leave your thoughts and questions in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you for the next Hebrew verb lesson. Lehitraot.